Okay, now for the last question, 5.5. The question is, the maximum distance between f and g in the interval x is greater than x at a, but less than x at b is k. If h of x is g of x plus k, determine the equation h in the form h of x is equal to something. So it's a very simple question. They're asking you to determine an equation, to make up an equation where you have g of x and then you add the constant k, where the constant k represents the distance between the two functions. So between the two functions within this range, within this domain, where x at a and x at b. So let me just clear this up. This is scribbles from the previous questions. If you haven't looked at them, look at the previous video that I uploaded. So this is what we have here. X at a, which we know from earlier is -5, and x at b we know is -2, right? Now what you want to do here is think about the question, build up an argument in your head, and solve the question through the deductions that you make as you go on forward, simply by building your argument in your head. So the question is the maximum distance, right? You're looking for the distance between the two functions. This is function f here, and this is function g here. The maximum distance, which I would say maybe occurs right about here. This is the distance you're looking for. So how would you get this distance? If you think about it, this distance looks like an f. Let's just make up a function d, which is a distance, is equal to f minus g. That makes sense, right? Then you continue. So what is f equal to? And what is g equal to? Now we're building up the function d. Now we can call that function d of x, because we know that f and g are defined in terms of x. D of x will be equal to f of x minus g of x, right? That makes sense, right? F of x minus g of x, that gives us the distance between the two. Now, we know that we have worked out the simplified version of f of x there, which we have here. And we also have g of x right there. Now then, let's do f of x minus g of x, just so that I don't have to copy and recopy all this. I'll just write it down here. This is equal to f of x minus g of x. Simplified, it becomes x minus x squared minus 6x minus 5. How I simplified this, you can look at the previous video, but it's pretty simple. Minus x plus 5. Simplify this, it becomes minus x squared minus 7x minus 10, right? Now we have d of x. That's our d of x. D of x, right? Let me just copy this and we go on to solve it. Copy question 5.5 right here, and we paste this. Right, now we have our function d of x. So what are we looking for here? We're looking for the maximum distance. And what do we know about maximum and minimum of a function? The maximum and minimum of a function always occurs at a turning point. For example, if you have, as we have seen in the previous questions, they're solving for the turning point. We were looking for that point there, the turning point. The maximum or minimum of a function occurs at a turning point. So in this case, it's a quadratic equation. It's a quadratic function, a parabolic in shape it's parabolic, so you know that it's only going to have one maximum or minimum. If it was in this form, it was going to have one minimum. If it's in this form, it's going to have one maximum. So it's easy to see that it only has one maximum or minimum, and therefore you don't have to worry about checking for other maximum, other minima or maxima that occur elsewhere within the function. So we know that the maximum or minimum of a function occurs at a turning point, and in this case you see that there's a negative there at the x squared, so that means our parabolic function is of this shape. Our function d of x is of this shape. It has a maximum point. What does this mean? It means that the maximum distance between the function f and g occurs at the turning point of our function d of x. And how do we find the value of that, the value of the distance at that point? We saw from the previous questions that we solved that the turning point occurs at gradient is equal to 0. And what is gradient? How do we get the gradient? Through differentiation. And as you have seen also in the previous video, that the easiest form of differentiation which you will encounter most of the times is of this form. I'll just repeat that for convenience sake. Ax to the n. If this is your function f of x, ax is equal to ax to the n, then your derivative f prime of x, or dy dx, will therefore be n a x to the n minus 1. That's how you get the derivative. So now we want to find the derivative of our function d of x. So d prime of x will be equal to, take this 2 down here, we have a minus 2x. You subtract 1 from that, so it just becomes x. There's a 1 there, it's an invisible 1. Take this 1 down here, it just becomes minus 7. Subtract 1 from there, it's x to the 0, which is just 1. So this is our derivative. Now we have a function that describes the gradient of our distance function, right? Now the turning point occurs where the gradient of the distance function is 0. This point here, where the change in x, as I say, dy dx, loosely approximates the change in y over the change in x, right? Well, I say approximates because differentiation will soon take on a different form as you continue with your studies. But yeah, that's what for now differentiation means. It means the gradient of the function, getting to the gradient of the function. So now we have the gradient of the function, and we know at that point it's equal to 0, so we equate this to 0 as we had done before in the previous question. And when you solve this, you get x is equal to 7 over 2. And what's that? 2 into 7. Well, I could just leave it as 7 over 2. That's our x value. Now, how do I get the distance? Because this is not the distance. This is the x coordinate where the maximum occurs. The maximum occurs at x is equal to 7 over 2. Now, go back to the distance function. This function, remember, gives us the distance. And substitute 7 over 2 where I see x. Let me write that down for you. Sub x is equal to 7 over 2 into d of x. When you do that, you have negative d of x becomes negative 7 over 2 squared minus 7 times 7 over 2 minus 10. Then you do some grade 1 algebra there, and your answer should be, well, is 2.25. That's the value of the distance, the greatest distance between f and g. Now, this is not the answer to the question. That's not the question they asked you. The question they asked you is, find the function h of x, which is given by g of x plus k. What you found here is k, the maximum distance. The maximum distance between f and g is k. You found k. Now what you want to give them is g of x plus k. Let's just remind ourselves what g of x is. G of x is x plus 2.5 plus 5. So that's g of x. So what will h of x be? We know that h of x is equal to g of x plus k. We know, however, g of x is x plus 5 plus k. K here is equal to 2.25. Then h of x will be equal to x plus 5 plus 2.25. This gives us x plus 7.25. That's the answer they're looking for. So you see that this question 5, it's not a very difficult question. Very simple and easy, 14 marks. If you want to look at the rest of the paper, you can go check out other videos as well. But for now, that's it.